Hi, Angela.
Hi,
Okay,
how are you? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. I was just checking to make sure that you guys were in. Um,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for your other um, panelist, Nekpen, and should be Mary.
Okay. Are you our moderator? Who's our moderator?
Mary is your moderator.
Okay, I'm
Great.
coming in now.
There she is.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah, I'm just checking. Like I
Okay,
said,
I'm
checking
already
that you guys
logged
are-
in. Yes.
Click on sessions and then click on your session.
Yeah, I'm currently in there right now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right. You can start sharing your screen, and someone on your will give you access to it.
Okay. All right.
All right, great.
Okay.
Let me contact the rest.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Right. Hi, apologies. I was in the other session on investing.
No, it's okay. No, what I try to do is get you guys set up so that when the other people come in, you're here already. So,
Mhm.
and that session has less than 10 minutes before your session kicks off
Okay.
at
How are
6:10.
you?
Girl, I'm sleepy.
Look, I did this because of you. I'm up early.
I bet. Listen, you don't hear me complaining. I'm here with you, and I'm
I heard you
feeling,
when you were speaking with David talking about you on your third coffee. I'm like,
girl, you don't
at this
know.
hour, it's not even like 7 o'clock yet.
You know why? Because
Where are you based, Annie?
New
New
York's
York.
with Mary.
Oh,
Mary's
wow.
Yeah.
based in New York too.
Hi,
No,
Oh,
Angela. How are
wow.
you?
Hi.
no, it's because I had the training sessions the prior days, so
Yeah.
I had to get up early, and it catches up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
does. Yeah, it does.
Don't
yes,
worry.
I'm
After
like,
tomorrow, you can crash.
I know I will be. I was like, don't ask me anything. I will be sleeping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting to try and connect everyone on a similar time zone who has to give.
Yeah.
That's why.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's exactly why we had to keep putting like on all of our emails the time.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you could easily get it confused and not see, oh, it's London time. You
Yeah.
know.
yes,
So
yes.
that was the only drawback. I was like,
The
okay,
only thing
yeah.
I told myself was be up at 4 a.m. so that way I can get in the vibe, like brush my teeth, take a shower, comb my hair out,
Yeah,
Wow. You're a
that's why I said
star.
same here. I mean, I was up at 3 and I was just trying to, finagle the system
Yeah.
because, the sessions don't show up until the actual time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had
Yeah,
to go back in and make it show up,
Wow.
so that you
Yeah.
could see it.
Yeah.
Whereas the way the system works, it's a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever comes up is what you need to see at the time that the schedule is there.
Right. Right. Right.
So, but then I was like, no, I already told everyone go look for your sessions. So let me make it show. So I'm like last minute trying to run around and do stuff to make it show.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
been great.
girl.
I really enjoyed the investor session.
Yeah.
And it's really
I
nice
think,
to see Pauline actually launch her own platform.
yeah, I actually thought that it was gonna be really good. And that's why I was like, let me put you on standby. But then David said, no, I've got it. There
Yeah,
won't be
no,
any
he's
problems.
done a good job. Yeah, so far so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
said, good, let me drag Angela said her
yeah,
okay,
I
her
see it.
good.
Yeah,
okay. So it's fine. We know, Angela, everyone has, we know that everyone's going to have some type of technical difficulty with internet. So I
yeah,
don't think it's anything that anyone's concerned about because I don't care where you live. There's all types of people home right now. So everyone's
yeah,
internet is going to
yeah.
be messed up,
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
because there are like 20 people on one computer.
Exactly. So it's not a thing to where it just like, oh, it's going to work perfect. If anyone thinks that, they're crazy because internet is not consistent.
Yeah, everywhere. It's not just in
That's
a
that's why
single
I'm
place.
like, yeah, people.
Did Annie just log off? Oh wow, she said it kicked her out. Okay, so we're going to wait for one more person, I believe.
Hi, Mary. I don't know if you can see me. I've lost your video.
I can see you. Okay, so we're waiting for Nekpen. I believe from Deloitte. She's going to be joining us soon. And so I know it's already recording. So once she's able to join us, then we'll be able to continue. So hello, everyone. My name is Mary Olashoga. I'm founder of the African Women Power Network, AWP Network. And today you're joining us for the session on remote work, the new normal. So we're going to be waiting for a panelist before we continue with the session. Okay, so let's start with introductions because I think it's already recording. So Angela, could you please go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Centra. I'm our HR business partner for Cellulant Corporation. We're based in Nairobi, Kenya. Offices across 18 markets. We're a digital payments Pan-African business, and we just generally like to provide payment solutions for all of the best business in Africa.
Yeah, no. So you work with Devine.
Yes, I do. I work with Devine.
Nice. Really good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're just going to allow for a few more minutes for Nekpen, and then we'll be able to proceed.
How do you know Devine yourself, Mary?
Devine used to live in New York.
Yeah, and I do know, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we're good friends. Way before she left to change the world.
She's doing that.
Yeah. She's really great.
She set out to do it, and she's doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's very focused. I think Nekpen too is also in New York, so there's a possibility that she's probably still, still asleep or so. Yeah, she's co-founder of Women Work, and she works at Deloitte. Okay, so it's starting at 6:10, so
One more minute.
Yeah. But I'm surprised it started recording like almost immediately.
Yeah, actually. Well, I guess they'll have to catch our banter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed the investor session.
Yeah, it's very insightful, actually.
Yeah. Were you able to attend?
Yes, I did just before Anita. In fact, I just started right from the beginning.
Oh, yeah. With the online education and learning. Yeah, I did too. Okay, so Annie has given us permission to go ahead. Okay, so we're going to get started. I guess it's going to be a conversation with myself and you.
Yay.
Okay, so I believe we have 5 people who are currently five, including both of us. So, hello everyone. Good morning, wherever you are in the world. My name is Mary Olusoga. I'm the founder of African Women Power Network, and AWP Network focuses on supporting women entrepreneurs throughout Africa. And also, I know we already did an introduction, but I'd also like to introduce you to Angela, who is marketing manager. Is that correct?
HR business partner.
Okay, HR business partner at Sally.
Yeah.
And she knows
We
a
were
very
just
good
talking about our marketing person.
Okay, yeah. So she knows a very good friend of mine, Devine, and we're very excited to have you here and to really talk about the future of work. So I'm just going to start more broadly. What is the future of work? Because we know that since COVID-19, and I'm not sure what the case is where you're currently located, but for so long, so many companies within the United States always gave the requirement to their employees: you must always come to the office. You must always come to the office. We want to see what you're doing. We want you to work from 9 to 12, take that lunch break from 12 to 1, and then come back to your desk from 1 to 5, and then you call it a day. But with COVID-19 and with the pandemic that happened, that so many of us were not prepared for, what do you think is the future of work?
Well, I think when you think about from the perspective of employers, a lot of employers have been forced immediately, number one, to just make the decision first to put your workers' safety first, send them home, let them work from home. And you have to really rethink the things that you measure. So the future of work, I think, it's going to be a lot of paradigm shifts about what do you measure? Is it bodies in the office, or is it the results that they produce? So I think some industries may struggle. We may see some industries really beginning to struggle in this way if they don't think about the employee experience in that way. But then also for a lot of for staff, from the staff perspective, not everyone knew that they could be as productive at home as they are right now. So that's also a shift. And I think we may have a refusal of a lot of people to return to the old ways of working. I think the new ways of working will require a lot more flexibility, both on the employer and the employee side, because we've tasted this kind of freedom. We've tasted productivity. And for companies such as ourselves that, typically remote is not new for us, but we've always gone to the office and we've always operated in office spaces. So this means that we really have to rethink, what is it going to mean now when people are going to be making the demands for you to allow them to be flexible in how they work and where they work. I think another really important shift to think about is how we access talent. We've always been restricted to the regions where we are, maybe for fintechs and software companies, typically because they're used to outsourcing, getting their talent from Silicon Valley, from India. I think the world is really ready now to open up hubs. When I think of Africa, I think for me, it's a huge opportunity right now to work for any company in the world while you still live where you want to live. Forget visa restrictions, forget immigration challenges. I think if we all learn how to adapt, then the challenges of accessing talent globally kind of go away. And if you're prepared with the right skill sets, the right tools, then you should be able to really access any work opportunities anywhere around the world.
No, I totally agree with you, because that is the future of work, whereby people are doing work more remotely, and they're not restricted by certain boundaries that previously existed. Meaning that if I'm a software developer, I could be working for, a company in Paris or a company in New York while I'm sitting in Nairobi, or I'm sitting in Cape Town, or I'm sitting in Lagos. That is the future. So there are more, not just that too, also economic opportunities, because you're able to bargain at a better salary. It's a great time to earn your USD.
It is.
So that is the future. But one question I want to ask, as we're making this shift, how do you encourage employees, and I want you to speak from an employer standpoint, to basically earn that trust, right? because it's one thing to stay home, because this is where micromanaging happens, and where
Yes.
like you're connecting with your employer, but your employer doesn't
Yes.
really trust you, and they're like, what is
Yeah.
she doing? And your employer is calling you every 5 minutes, and they're asking all these like questions because there's no
Yes.
how do you encourage employees to basically help that employer build that trust so that they can be productive? Because it's very distracting if your employer doesn't trust you and is constantly asking for reports every day, send me your
Yes.
work schedule, calling you every minute. How do you intend that happens?
Well, I think that's a really good question. I think building trust is something that employers consistently need to do, because even before COVID, that was a problem in workplaces, because
Yeah.
you still have your micromanaging boss who's on your desk.
Yeah.
Was it management by walking? What are you
Yeah.
working now? Is that
Yeah.
report ready? And emails at all hours. So that's really, it's going to call for a culture shift, and culture
Right.
shifts are actually quite difficult. I
Yeah.
mean, the one thing that I can say is, maybe from our lessons on growth, is when you start to invest in those soft skills of building the trust fast,
Right.
helping your teams set really meaningful goals. So if you
Right.
have goal clarity, then we are measuring you not for how much output or how much time you can I call it desk time, but how
Yeah.
much you're giving back into the organization. So it
Absolutely.
requires that we start measuring different things. So first is there goal clarity. We have to create new norms about communication.
Absolutely.
Our bosses kind of have to, can I say, build a new culture as well, to understand what's acceptable to get in touch with me, and at
Right.
what time and when. Should you call me at all hours of the night? So it's going to require all of us to really learn new skill sets. And those skill sets are sometimes the hardest ones to learn. It's a
Yeah.
softer side of businesses, it's a softer side of management. And I think it's the organizations that do that well, they'll have a payoff,
Right.
because in the end, as long as you trust your people with treat your people with trust, then they begin to demonstrate that trust. But I think what's worked fantastically, can I say, for Cellulant, has been using the right kinds of tools to measure the results. What's the objective you're working on? When do I expect to receive a result from you? And then some frequent type of check-ins, moving away from the KPIs we set early in the year and then we check in June, but more frequent, more agile interactions and communications, where you're basically checking not where have you been, but
Yeah.
what have you delivered, and what are the challenges how do I help you overcome those?
Right. So let's delve into more of what you said, and I really love that response because, like Olamide
Yeah.
says here in the notes, relearning from both sides is key. So what
Yes.
kind of specific skills do employees need to have to be able to manage up? Because it's also like emotional intelligence, managing up,
Yes.
giving your supervisor or your boss what's needed before they even ask for it. Calling
Yes.
them before they ask, providing them with updates before they ask. What specific skills, definitely time management skills is very important, but what specific skills is needed and required? Can you really touch on that?
Lost you for a little bit.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Hi.
Okay.
Sorry, I lost you for a little bit. Maybe you can repeat
Sure,
that.
I'll be more than happy to. What specific skills is required so that employees can better learn how to manage up? Because obviously we know time management is important. Obviously, emotional intelligence, communicating, being proactive about your communication, emailing your boss way before they need something, calling them, sending them updates. So can you touch upon specific skills and how, in which manner can employees acquire those skills, especially for those who have never worked from home before and this is a new experience?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, the one thing that I've been advocating a lot for is something, as a parent, is something that I found really works. It's a change in mindset, because we are all in, even when you're managing upwards with your boss, it requires that you're a little bit more adaptable. You understand their personality, how they work, and the kind of mindset you take on is a growth mindset. And this is something that's really been helping a lot of people fast to cope and then become a little bit more resilient. Because when you think about the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset, if you have a fixed mindset about things, you're always avoiding challenges. You give up easily. You're gonna ignore some feedback just because it's negative. But when you adopt a growth mindset, you start to embrace challenges, and you kind of use the power of not yet. I may not understand it yet, but I'm willing to try. And you begin to persist in the face of setbacks. Some of these skills, things that as entrepreneurs, as women in tech fields, as anybody really who's been in any industry where they do, can I say they're a minority? You've had to adopt a growth mindset. It translates extremely well as well in this kind of environment where everything is completely unpredictable. It's uncertain. So your boss is learning, you're also learning. So how you overcome the challenges and obstacles will really elevate you to a higher level of achievement and kind of give you a greater sense of free will, because the world is not it's not fixed, it's not deterministic. So you're able to kind of adapt a little bit better. I don't know if that kind of answers you, but I think even in different polls at the office, when we asked staff, like, what are the core challenges you're having right now, and what are the areas where you need help? For most of them, it wasn't about the tools or their boss. It's just about finding balance and maintaining a healthy mindset in order to cope with uncertainty.
Great. And thank you for being very detailed about that. Another question that I want to talk about, or a concern, especially as this becomes the new normal, with COVID-19 being the pandemic. How do you think more employees can deal with loneliness in the workplace? Because you can also have a lot of people who might be single people, who might be living alone, who are working from home, and it's just them and their computer and working and trying to meet up with these deliverables, but it's very lonely. And even in the US, there's been two issues that have been noted here in the US as people deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. The first is there's been a lot of suicides. There's also been a lot of drug overdose, because a lot of people are lonely and they don't have that support that is needed. And so as more people are sort of compelled and forced to stay home because of this virus, how do they deal with loneliness, as it pertains to the workplace? And like you said, keeping that healthy balance. What can employers do? What can employers do?
Yeah. From my perspective, I myself am an introvert and I miss the office now. We have an open plan office.
Nice.
And you can understand, as an introvert, people are always in your space. And I'm missing the people. I'm missing the interaction. This is now too much isolation. Some of the things I've really found working is for, can I say, prioritizing a little bit more face-to-face interactions, even if they're digital, like what we're doing now. Sometimes we tend to be, can we say, just over Zoom, and you don't want to put on your video, you don't want to do anything. But using a few lighthearted moments, turning video once in a while, kind of taking a few minutes from the work, because sometimes we tend to jump on the Zoom call, everything's all straight up business, and we forget the softer side. It makes a lot of sense to begin to kind of soften up the interactions. I think one of the things my team and I do really well is we make fun of one of our team members who never turns on their video. Like, my hair
that would be me.
Yeah.
Because they haven't done their hair, they haven't done something.
One sneak peek. But I have to confess that for us, because we are kind of in staggered work shifts, the isolation is not so bad. So I might not have all the answers for the guys who have been in a lot more stricter can I say lockdowns where you can't even leave your
Right.
house except for grocery
Yep.
shopping, and all you're left with is this type of interaction. But it really helps to fast, not always a Zoom call, sometimes just hearing somebody's voice helps us to understand, and reaching out, which is always very difficult, especially when you're lonely. But being vulnerable around how am I feeling, where am I going with this, and then taking it light, a few light-hearted moments and a few light-hearted interactions really just does lighten the mood for quite a few people.
Yeah, and I think it's always
Yeah.
fascinating when you're in a call and someone's pet comes in or someone's child comes in. Like even today, this morning,
Yeah.
someone's child was able to join in the phone call. I think that always lightens up the mood a little bit, and that's very helpful.
Yes.
So how
Yeah.
long do you think that remote work will last? Do you think we'll be back to normal soon, if there's such a thing as normal? Or do you think this
No,
is it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think we will have some semblance of normal for some industries. But I think we've all sometimes in the back of our minds when you think about it. So really, sometimes it depends on your country.
Yes.
Some countries will have gotten rid of COVID and open up very quickly. Some other countries are gung-ho about it, like we're just gonna live with it, forget all of this. I think what we're gonna have to live with for a long time is taking precaution. So even when you think about your office spaces, you won't be able to accommodate everybody at the same time just because of physical distancing. You might have to stagger shifts, and it might be a while before some colleagues see each other. I think until the end of 2020, you can't make any predictions.
Right.
We don't know how long it lasts, but until the end of 2020, I don't think you can make predictions about us going back to the way things are. But what I do like also about there's an opportunity for us to reset our work-life
Right.
balance. And what employees and employers, especially employers, really have to do is to encourage their staff to take time, take stock, and really think about what are the things that were not working before about the way we were working. Like if you live in Nairobi, the long traffic commute, it doesn't work for anybody.
Yes.
Do we really need to be all in traffic at the same time?
That's
So
true.
those working hours, the 9 to 5, that might completely go away. And then we have new ways of figuring out when you're productive and what results you need to bring up. And we let you work the way you prefer to work.
Okay, so thank you all so much for joining this conversation with myself. I'm Mary Olushoga, founder of AWP Network, and Angela, who's representing her company Cellulent with several locations across Africa. I know you're not the founder, but I know you're working within the company. So we have a question here from Rosalinda Parka, where she says, what are some of the investments that employers will need to have in place to ensure seamless integration and productivity? That's a very good question, because for my team and I, we've been able to use platforms like someone already said, Slack, Microsoft Teams, constant Zoom meetings. And I want to talk about this after you answer those questions in terms of cybersecurity as well. I'm not sure if it's a question you can answer, but security is also another issue as we talk about the future of work. But the question is, what are some investments that employers will need to have in place to ensure seamless integration and productivity?
Yeah, I think I can only answer from our perspective. I think what we found is that first, choosing the platform is just about figuring out how do employees work first. How have your teams been working? So when you think about companies that are already digital, for them, the platforms are generally around, is our work secure? Like if you think about techies, what sites they're using, what software they're using, whether it's for learning, whether it's for development, etc., etc. So those platforms are really fast driven by your business need. But then secondly, I think you can invest in a lot of platforms, but they don't get used. So like, I think like at Cellulent, we barely use Slack, but we're a techie company. We're everywhere, 18 countries, teams across markets. and we're using all sorts of other platforms, so such as your WhatsApp, because it's easiest. It's on my phone. I can reach you anytime. In fact, calling has made a comeback. Can we say SMSing has made a comeback as well? Email is still prevalent. So when you really think about the tools, I think you want to think through first how your people work and what's going to work for them, because not every business is going to be able to invest in expensive platforms. But then the other one really around security, I think cybersecurity is the one area that everyone's investing in right now, because it's a new haven for cyber criminals, whether it's your laptops, whether it's your mobile phone, whether it's how you bank, whether it's even mobile money platforms. So security is an investment everyone has to make. But then maybe the one that you shouldn't forget, obviously, is that does every employee have the right infrastructure to work from home?
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes when you think about some people, even though they are within the urban areas, they might not have the same type of coverage for home fiber and access to reliable Wi-Fi. So maybe they're connecting with their mobile phone and a dongle, and it's not always reliable. So for them, you might need to make a different kind of investment, but it's also a collaboration. So like when I think about partly, some of us are able to work from home full-time because you have fiber and your area has good access, and then others come to the office because you have much better connection. So really, I think it's a dialogue with your teams around what's going to work best, who needs what kind of support, and how do you implement that, and what's the cost to you as an organization. So even as you're making the decision, I think it's really a collaborative one with your staff.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that very detailed response. So one more question I do have is, when we were in the office in our past lives, you know, one of the things, if you have like mentors, they tell you be seen, be more vocal, make sure you're known, make sure you're heard, so that people remember you, you know, if they're thinking about promotion. But now we're all home, you know, and some people, like you said, don't turn on their video. You know, some people don't speak during meetings. So how do we encourage people, especially women, to be more vocal, to be seen as they stay home, as they're working from home? You know, how do you get sort of your supervisors, your bosses to take you more seriously? Because to get that promotion on the job, to move on to the next level, aside from getting the work done, you need to speak up. You need to show your face. You need to really be out there, you know. But it's interesting because some people can get lost in this, I'm working from home, it doesn't matter. You know, you need to turn on your video, you need to ask questions. So how do we encourage more people, especially women, to be seen? Because promotions are still going to happen, you know, and all these different things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you should not be left behind. You need to be more vocal, more visible. So how do we encourage more of that?
I think, and for me, generally, the way I have seen it in for women, the way we build our careers and the way we grow in the office is very different from men. So we can't forget that in this environment. The two things that I completely advocate for is making sure you cultivate a good sponsoring relationship, as well as a good mentoring relationship, because your mentor is going to be able to push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and have someone that really tells you maybe you need to be putting yourself a little bit out there. So you have to really find a career sponsor and an active, because unfortunately, can I say, even as we grow, not all opportunities allow you to be seen the way you work or how you bring yourself to work. So sometimes you do need someone to fix up for you when you're not present, and is important. So even right, we are working from home, make sure that your work is visible.
Yes. Okay, so while we are waiting for Angela, and apologies for the technical difficulty, we're going to wait for her to log back in. Once again, my name is Mary Olashoga. I'm founder of AWP Network, and I am the moderator for this session, Remote Work, the New Norm. On the session, we have Angela Centra, who will be once again joining us. Thank you all for being patient. If you have
Sorry.
questions, no, it's okay. Don't be sorry. If you have questions or if you have a comment or questions that you'd love to ask, now is the opportunity to do so. So back to you, Angela. We're talking about visibility and women finding sponsors and mentors in the workplace, because as we know, even though this is the new normal, promotions are still going to be happening. And like I said
Yeah.
previously, there's some people that don't turn on their videos when they have meetings. There are some people that don't speak up or ask questions when they have meetings. But it's very important to be able to do so. So you were talking about ways that could support women to be more visible, even though they're working remotely.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the areas women excel in is in building relationships. So you have to build a relationship with the right kinds of people in your organization, especially who are somewhere slightly above you, so that even if your work is not visible at every level, there's somebody who's always advocating on your behalf. But then you also have, yeah, I think for yourself, have to be very contextually aware about your organization. What are the key projects that matter? And how do you add value to them? Sometimes you could be pulled in from any part of the organization just to add your expertise to something, and people remember that. I think the one thing I can say from a HR, only 1 year in HR, but I feel like an expert, is that 80% of the jobs are not advertised. You know, they go around the organization. So that means if you're in an organization where you want to grow, you have a unique opportunity to find out what's happening. You know, don't stay in your corner. Always have lunch with someone different. Try to step out of your comfort zone, because you gotta have to kind of break the distance and the differences we build around ourselves, and just find out. You might find that maybe your passion area is something that somebody else in the organization is looking specific skills and talent for. So you have to put yourself out there either way. Sometimes don't play safe. I think for women, we play safe too much.
Absolutely.
So don't play safe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Be more vocal. Talk.
Yeah. Build relationships. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Build meaningful relationships. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have one more question from Faith. And the question is, actually, I heard this question at a webinar I was in, I believe last week. It was a nonprofit webinar where people were talking about cuts. And while organizations are cutting people, cutting salaries, cutting budgets, you know, how do you come in with a doing contract work for that specific organization? So the question is, how do you begin a discussion about remuneration with remote work, considering some work seem to be on a halt while others continue to run, yet facing the same pay cuts? Quick answer that I will say, make sure you have a contract. Short, whether it's long-term work, short-term work, have a contract. Don't finish the work and then start following the person for payment. Make sure you have a contract in place. Make sure everything is well communicated and negotiated, and then move forward with the work. But I'm going to hand it over to Angela to answer that question.
I think if I take a women's perspective, fight for your money. Know your value. Know the value of the job you're in, and just know what the market is willing to pay for that job. Sometimes you might be forced to accept something lesser than what you're worth, but it's gotta be for a very specific reason. Like maybe there's an opportunity to learn, you don't have all the competencies for the job, and you're willing to take a lesser salary to gain that competency. But even now, fight for your worth. Unless the whole organization is taking a pay cut, don't be in the scenario where you're the only one taking a pay cut just because they feel that they don't value you. So, I mean, when you think about certain industries like airlines right now, everyone's taking a pay cut. So you really didn't have much of a choice as to how much of a pay cut you're going to take. It was just a decision. We're not making money. We're not even flying until September, November, who knows, all the way from the top to the bottom 80%. So in that scenario, it's very difficult. But if not everyone is taking a pay cut in the organization, I think you kind of have to fight for your value a little bit. Just demonstrate that you know what you're worth, and ask for what you're worth.
Absolutely. I think too many women do not negotiate for what they want. If someone says, you know, for example, the salary is 40,000, they're like, I'll take it. I'm just so happy to be working. But you know, even though they're offering 40, sometimes in the budget they have up to 80. And if you don't ask for that amount, or even if they're not offering the full 80, always negotiate for something. Can I work from home? Can I have 4 weeks of vacation? Can I have 2 months of vacation? Always negotiate first. Always, because you have to accept and acknowledge your power and understand that you're bringing so much value to the table that there's something to negotiate. I think it's when people don't understand the value that they bring to the table that they're very unwilling to negotiate. But nothing is free. You know, your knowledge certainly should come at a cost. So once again, any last questions? We have a few minutes left before the end of the session. The title of this conversation is Remote Work, the New Normal. Angela, do you have any last words for us? Any tips, resources, websites that we should be visiting as we all work from home? YouTube channels, whatever it is, you know, any experts we should know about?
Well, I think I've learned a lot from FutureLearn. They have a lot of free resources around mental health, remote working, new skill sets across board, whether you want to learn programming, HR like myself, or anything, sales, whatever it is. I think the last thing to do is maybe take this opportunity to learn more about yourself. You know, even as we are resetting, let's reset how we think about ourselves, how we think about our own capabilities, and really just get out there and get it.
This is a really good question. So one more question from Yvonne. She says, as a HR, do you think that remote work might lead to more hiring of people with disabilities? That's a really good question, because we need to talk more about inclusion and what that means.
Yeah, I think for me it's fantastic, because the one area that I found where organizations limit themselves is by not being diverse. I think for a long time the conversation around diversity has just been gender-based, but it's all kinds of diversity. There's all sorts of people who are being excluded from the workforce for invalid reasons. If you think about the kinds of industry we are in, digital societies, as long as you can code, you're fine. And all kinds of ways and tools and platforms are being developed to help people with different kinds of disabilities be able to gain skill sets. So I think it really might change how we hire and who we hire, because I mean, we still have those unconscious and conscious biases about who you want in the workplace and what it will cost you. So I think I found that most people think that it will cost you a lot more if you have to hire someone who's physically disabled, and it typically doesn't, because they bring you the same value as anybody else. So I think, yes, I think it will lead to more hiring or more diverse hiring. Like we said, skill sets are going to be global now. Why limit yourself to jobs in your location?
Absolutely. And I also think that as we go into remote work and the new normal, also more companies need to be clearer on policies for their companies, especially for startups, because a lot of these startup businesses that are popping up in places like Africa, Cape Town, Nairobi, Lagos, they don't have policies, whether it's sexual harassment, assault policies, whether it's policies on remote working, you know, whatever it is. So I think, you know, it's very crucial that people have some of those resources as they're starting their businesses, as they're growing, and all of that. Okay, so I hear from Janet that we have about 5 minutes more. Once again, this is remote work, the new normal. If you have questions, please put it in the chat box. All right. Looks like we have a few minutes left. Did you want to ask?
Some great questions.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been some really, really good questions that have talked about disability, diversity,
Yeah.
really how do you negotiate? So negotiating is very, very important. And I think negotiating um, could be difficult for a few people who are used to doing it in person. Now there is no
Yeah.
in person. So how do you negotiate, online on the internet and have, the person take you seriously? Because when you negotiate, it's like that's not what I want. You the successful negotiation is leaving the table with what you want. So how do you encourage
Yeah.
that? What skills do people need to acquire? Do people need to know to negotiate as their, because I feel like fear is the number one reason why people don't ask for what they want, because they're thinking, will this person give me what I want? So how do you encourage more
Yeah.
people, especially women, to really negotiate their worth and ask for what they want?
Yeah. Can I confess so fast I do not have this skill yet.
Okay.
But certainly, I think it really helps to first know what it is you're bringing to the table. When
Right.
you think about where you've been, what's your story? Your story is a powerful ally because you've probably overcome so much to get to where you are. So if you use your stories as your allies and you begin to think through all of the things that you've done when you're bringing yourself to this table, and also arm yourself with enough information. One of the other things we don't do is talk enough about what do I earn? What do my colleagues earn? What are they paying? Ask these questions so that when you're coming to the negotiating table, you kind of have some ranges within which you're comfortable to take away. So for me, my two things that I always use is what am I gonna, even if it's not money, what else am I going to get out of this? Is it a mission-driven organization that allows me to express myself the way I need to? Will I be learning something? So if I don't think I'm going to be valued, if I don't think I'm adding anything to their mission, then it better just be top dollar. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to be there. Yeah.
But sometimes top dollars is not worth your mental health, because some jobs are just
Again, yes. So you have to decide, do
let
I
me
want
ask
top dollar and paid? Yeah.
let me ask one last question, which comes from Joy, and it says, do you think that remote work will lead to people taking up multiple jobs within one day? And this is a very important question, because even without remote working, people used to work 2, 3 jobs, especially here in the
Yes.
US, people who do some
Yes.
kind of menial jobs, they're hopping from some job to the other to make ends meet. But now you can work from home. Maybe sometimes all you have to do is make a phone call, write the reports. Do you really think that is the future? Especially, we had talked about loneliness and how people can engage. But if you're spending so
Yes.
much time working and working, how do you keep
Yes.
that balance? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think for sure this is something that we should expect. Even this is really my own personal opinion. I do think that there's power in having a side hustle. It brings
Absolutely.
out your passions, a creative side of you. So if you have time to dedicate something to something that you feel is worthwhile to you, is adding value to you, and maybe making you money, yes, absolutely it will be. But the challenge then is to make sure you balance. So myself as a parent, I'm homeschooling, a job, a side hustle work for me. I'm stretched too thin. It's full-time work. So you have to understand your own situation. If you've got the time, do it.
Yeah, and
Go
and
for it.
I'll add one last question before we call the end of the session. So as someone who has a family, how do you manage, all of those roles? And I hate to ask this question because, people always say, why do you always ask the woman, you know, what does it mean to be a wife and to be a mother? But I think it's important because um, can Angela hear me? Looks like Angela may be off again.
Hi, Mary.
Okay. It looks like we have another question. Okay. So what I was asking, and very briefly, we only have a few minutes left, is, as we're working from home and as, remote work has become the new normal, we're allowing some of our colleagues into some of our intimate lives. For example, we could be on a session and someone's child comes in. I remember watching on social media where a child is like, "Mommy, can I have 2 cookies?" And she was like on a live show. And so how should employees or employers manage all of that? Because you're welcoming your peers, your colleagues into your intimate lives. For those who don't have children, some people's pets are showing up on Zoom meetings and all sorts of things. Some people sometimes forget to mute their videos and they're showing them in the bathroom. So there are all these like hiccups and things like that. So talk more about that.
I think for me, I find that it's great because one of the things that happens when we go to the office place is that we have a mask for home and we have a mask for work.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's almost like you live your humanity outside, come and be at work, and then go be yourself outside of the workplace. So for me, I think there's no downside, or except the toilets. TMI. I think there's no downside because there's nothing more human than seeing you in your element. It builds psychological safety. It's just it's a fast step of building trust in a team. So if your team sees you with your kid, they see a more human side to you. If you're the boss who's always serious, and you begin to see who people are, because sometimes we forget that we work with people. So we keep expecting that people live their peopleness outside when they come to work, and then they don't have any other burdens or pets. I think it's fun. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. I actually think that I've been caught several times on Zoom video and I forget to mute myself and I'm having like a random conversation about food or negotiating the bill. It does make us human. And my colleagues, they start laughing and they say, "Mute yourself." So, well, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, my name is Mary Olashoga. I'm founder of AWP Network. And with us, we have Angela Centra, who is representing her company, Cellulent. Once again, this is the session, Remote Work, the New Norm. Thank you once again for all of your questions. And Angela, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And to Annie and the team, thank you for organizing this amazing session. We look forward to seeing you at other sessions. And once again, stay in touch. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.